Welcome. It's good to have you all here, wherever here is. This is Insight Meditation Community of Charlotte, and we are meeting on Zoom and almost getting used to it. I am Alexis J. Stein, one of 5 Dharma leaders here at Insight. And we have 3 Dharma leaders in training. So what I'd like to invite you to do is to just get comfortable, relax a little bit. You don't want to relax too much because it might put you to sleep. And just settle in for a Dharma talk. The title of my Dharma talk tonight is Looking Deeply at Anger. I want to start tonight by telling you 2 stories that will introduce you to my topic for the evening. There is a poignant story that Philip Moffat tells about 2 Buddhist monks who encounter each other many years after being released from prison where they had been tortured. The first monk looks at the second monk and says, "Have you forgiven our captors?" The second monk replies, "I will never forgive them, never." The first one looks at the second monk and says, "Well, I guess they still have you in prison, don't they?" This second story, Buddha and the Angry Man, is told by many teachers, so you may have heard this one before. Once Gautama Buddha was traveling from a village. Everyone was happy to see him, and they listened to his talks with dedication. However, one young man was not at all happy to see him in the village. He believed the Buddha to be a fake master fooling the masses. While Buddha was delivering his speech, the man stood and started shouting in a very rude manner. Buddha did not pay any attention to him and continued speaking without bothering about him. This made the young man even angrier. He came and stood in front of the Buddha, and facing him, he began insulting. "You have no right to teach anything to others. You are as stupid as everyone else. Stop fooling everyone. You are a fake." The followers of Buddha, startled, tried to overpower the man to protect the Buddha. But the Buddha stopped them and said, "It's not always necessary to counter aggression by aggression. Then he turned to the young man with a smile and asked, "Tell me, if you buy a gift for someone and that person does not take it, to whom does the gift belong?" The young man was surprised to be asked such a strange question, and he answered, "It would belong to me because I brought the gift." Buddha smiled and said, "That is correct, and it's exactly the same as your anger. If you become angry with me and I do not feel insulted, then the anger falls back on you. You then are the only one who becomes unhappy, not me. All you have done is hurt yourself." Buddha taught that no matter what the situations are, if you surrender yourself to anger, the anger will always take your life away. So, this is the subject that I personally am diligently working on, and I do mean working with. My goal is to understand the nature of anger because I want to be an effective fighter of justice, to lessen the unfairness between individuals and people, and I'm working to lessening my controlling ego states. At almost 77 years of age, I've not yet learned how to use my anger and use it in a wholesome and constructive fashion. But I am learning a great deal about myself from watching it in action, and my intention is not letting anger control the non-self. Anger is one of the densest forms of communication. It conveys more information more quickly than almost any other type of emotion. This is how Charles Duhigg sums up a conversation he had with James Averill, professor of psychology at UMass Amherst. Averill also noted that a bit of anger can quickly clear up unspoken resentments, unacknowledged boundary violations, and unaddressed imbalances. However, on the other hand, in Buddhism, anger is often regarded as taboo, an emotional reaction to be avoided as much as possible. The 8th century monk scholar Shantideva, in The Way of the Bodhisattva, writes, "A single moment of anger destroys the good karma built up over 1,000 eons." Now, these are two very different viewpoints, but both agree that anger is very powerful. The questions that leaves us with, according to Ken MacLeod in a Tricycle article entitled "Anger," are: is there a way to direct the energy, clarity, and power of anger to spiritual ends? Is it possible to find the peace and clarity of awareness in the experience of anger? Is it possible to use anger to put ourselves in others' shoes and so undermine the tendency to treat ourselves as special? Is it possible to step out of the world of conflict and opposition that anger projects? And is it possible to discover the groundlessness of experience in an emotional reaction as intense and potentially destructive as anger? In the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, the answer to all these questions is an unambiguous yes, Ken says. Now, if you decide to stop listening to my talk now, because in my understanding, insight meditation does not think anger is wholesome, I get it. But I'm learning so much about the power of anger and its ability to be wholesome when applied for the good of all sentient beings that I'm inclined to see a bigger picture. My talk is for those of us who are imperfect. Get angry and allow our righteous anger to become unwholesome. If you are sitting there and thinking, well, I never let people see my anger. I keep it inside, hidden from the world, and even from myself sometimes. Just be aware. Internal anger or rage is just as destructive and unwholesome as external anger can be, because it eats away at our bodies, our psyches, and our health. So whether you are a volcano about to erupt or a silent sufferer who hasn't learned how to express anger in a positive way, this talk is for you as well. But by the way, the Dalai Lama and Thich Nhat Hanh, among other notable wise men and women, admit to experiencing anger. The difference is they are grounded in peace, and most of us are not. There is a lot of debate about the proper role of anger in our world today. Those of us who read Dreaming Me, an African-American woman's spiritual journey in book club, may remember Jan Willis, professor at Wesleyan, describe an occasion when she was furiously angry while at Lama Yeshe's center in Nepal. She remembers standing outside the temple, fuming at something or other. Lama Yeshe crept up beside her and whispered in her ear, "Buddha mind, very angry today." Her mind stopped. The mind that is angry is the same as the mind of the Buddha? She had never considered that possibility. It changed everything for her. Anger was no longer a force or demon that took you over. It became instead a movement in mind, a mind as clear and empty as the sky. In her tradition, Ken MacLeod states, all experience is seen as movement in the mind. Experiences arise and fade on their own, like clouds in the sky. Anger is one such cloud, though it often arises as an overwhelming black storm cloud, whose earth-shaking thunderclaps deafen us to all other voices, and whose flashes of lightning can set our whole world on fire. Melvin MacLeod, editor-in-chief of Lion's Roar, has said in a compelling article, The Wisdom of Anger, perhaps the fundamental distinction that Buddhism makes about anger is between anger and aggression. According to Buddhism, aggression is one of the three poisons that drive human suffering. Even a brief moment of reflection on our own lives, our society, and human history can confirm that aggression is the greatest cause of destruction and suffering. Melvin continues, as with the other two poisons, ignorance and greed, what defines aggression is ego. Aggression is the ego of anger in the service of self, rather than non-self, which the Buddha says is one of the three characteristics of existence. That energy is ready to attack anyone and anything deemed as a threat. But Melvin continues, when anger is released from its service to ego, it ceases to be aggression and simply becomes energy. The pure energy of anger has wisdom and power. It can even be enlightened. Anger is the power to say no. This is our natural reaction whenever we see someone suffer. We want to stop it. So personally, my path is to learn what Lama Rod Owens in his new book, Love and Range, describes this way. When I feel myself contracting and shutting down, I know I'm getting further away from spaciousness. When we can step back and see everything, that's when we start experiencing realization. We see the nature of everything because we have the flexibility and the adaptability. We can spread out. For Lama Rod, that is the heart of the Dhamma. He says, if we don't have space, we're not breathing. We can't breathe without space. The Buddha says no to the three poisons that drive injustice, and yes to the wisdom in the three characteristics of existence. Wise people are angry about our suffering, and they will work happily to destroy its causes. When anger is not driven by ego, and when the energy of anger says no to all that is selfish, exploitive, and unjust, and when it is not driven by ego, it can bring good to the world. On a larger scale, anger is the energy that inspires great movements for freedom and social justice, which we need so badly now. It's a vital part of every spiritual path. Dr. King said, Riots are the language of the unheard. I'm going to repeat that. Riots are the language of the unheard, and hence all of the marches this spring in relationship to Floyd's death. The energy of anger is an inherent part of human nature. Everyone experiences anger. So I have made the personal commitment to work with the energy of anger so it doesn't manifest as aggression. It's important to understand where our aggression comes from, how it differs from anger, and a path to work with it. After an expression of anger that turned into aggression, someone stopped me, which was a blessing. It has sent me on a deep exploration of the messages I received as a child and a commitment to work with a wise, more enlightened person and become more equanimous, less aggressive, more patient and tolerant, more mindful of when I feel the energy arising in me, and more mindful of the gap and poisoning and pausing to breathe deeply and to remember, one, it's just a cloud or a storm passing by. It is impermanent. And two, we are all in this together. We all seek to lessen our suffering. And most of us have not mastered the skills of wholesomeness, peace, compassion, tolerance, and wisdom. The Buddha offers us the guides to lessen the harm we cause others when our egos are running rampant. I have made this commitment to myself and have the path outlined before me. I am intent on learning to control my emotions versus letting my anger control me. You are my witnesses. Check back with me in a year, and I will tell you about my successes and failures. And when I feel targeted by someone else's anger, may I acknowledge that they are suffering too and not take it so personally. Anger has always been a source of clarity of my thoughts, and I can be most articulate when the anger doesn't turn into aggression. May I live to make a dent in this practice, and may I approach my ego without aggression and hostility when it brings me fear, vulnerability, and unworthiness. In closing, I'm going to leave you with this wisdom from Chuang Tzu. If a man is crossing a river and an empty boat collides with his own skiff, even though he be a bad-tempered man, he will not become very angry. But if he sees a man in the boat, he will shout at him to steer clear. If the shout is not heard, he will shout again and yet again and begin cursing. And all because there is somebody in the boat. Yet, if the boat were empty, he would not be shouting. He would not be angry. If you can empty your own boat, crossing the river of the world, no one will oppose you. No one will seek to harm you. Thank you, and I'd like to open it to questions and maybe answers. And you can do that either by raising your hand or writing something to me. Kate, what a great response. I thank you so much. Anger without ego, the place to do our learning. You can raise your hand through where it says, I think, participants at the very bottom. No, it needs to be, if you want to raise your hand, it needs to be somewhere on the chat. And on my chat, it's on the very top, but I have an iPad, and that may not be what you're using. Okay, someone wrote participants, box, bottom right of the box. And that may be, it wasn't on mine. So while the questions come in, because I'm sure no one else here is dealing with anger. And so you may want to question why I'm angry. But what I will do, while you Shelley wrote, it says reaction. I'm not sure where you're referring to, since it's not on mine. So let me read the announcements. Shelley says lower right. Okay, I want to make the announcements, and I'm noticing that another question or comment came in, and you can see it. You can look under participants and find the lower right. I want to remind you, we've heard that Denise Owens, our board chair and a Dharma leader in training, is going to lead on September 2nd. So I invite you all to join us as a way of supporting Denise. Denise wrote, our KM group is studying emotions tied to meeting needs. Do I have a suggestion for how to identify my own and the other needs skillfully while charged with anger? Well, it depends on the person. What I would suggest is that someone might say, you seem to be feeling extremely angry. Would you like to talk about it? Because sometimes people do not realize that they're angry. Sometimes it's an automatic response, like I said, like a volcano erupting or lightning in a thunderstorm. It takes over people who have not learned how to control their anger. And the best way, I've asked some friends, when I am angry or raise my voice, to give me a signal. And they each have different signals, but I'll get it. Jim says, I used to have a problem with anger, but find that writing every morning about how I am feeling helps me get perspective about my anger. Excellent, Jim. Thank you so much. Dave asks, what would you say is the relationship between anger and fear? Well, for me, fear is definitely underneath the anger. So I'm convinced that anger is a protector, and usually fear is underneath it. I want to get a raised hand. Okay, I'm going to unmute you. You can unmute, Dan. See if you can unmute yourself. Well, that's not working.
I was able to do that.
Thank you.
Well, I want to thank you for the presentation. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
I'd just like to say that I dealt with anger for a long time, and for the last, I guess, 40 years, it had been my mission to overcome that. And between, of course, many years of therapy and then Buddhism, it worked. And what I do, what I'm able to do, is as maybe as much as I disagree with others or things that are happening, it can never be placed on one individual. And I never look at it as something that I'm mad about. I look at it as something that needs a change, needs fixing, needs input, needs demonstration. And at the end of it all, I'm usually just sad for those people that are doing those things that cause suffering to others. And that has been my way of dealing with it now at almost 72 years old. Thank you.
Perfect. I'm so glad that you shared with us the way it works for you. As you notice, I have sort of lost, I hear the voice, but there I go. But I was having trouble getting back to you, Dan, but we all heard your response, and it's excellent. And it looks like you created a path that works for you as well. Thank you. Gary, I'm going to unmute you. You can lower your hand. What happened to Gary? Gary. Did I lose Gary? Well, you can tell that I'm a technological dinosaur. Angela said that was so helpful. And I believe she's referring to what Dan said. I'm not sure. It may be what I said, but what we both said hopefully was meaningful. Gary, raise your hand again. And let me see if I can get you so that you can respond. Okay. There you go. Go ahead. You can unmute yourself, Gary.
I just did.
Good.
I find you to have the best sense of humor of anyone that I encounter. Do you think your sense of humor is a benefit or a hindrance to your study of anger?
Good question, Gary. What I would say is anger and humor, if they went together more, would create less aggression. I think it's the ego that creates the problem. And if we can pay attention to how our ego wants to control everything, then we're in a better position to, if someone tells a joke or says something funny, laugh and break the humor. I don't have a problem stopping it if someone can help me put a lid on the volcano. But I hope to learn how to do that myself, like Dan said. Angela's comment is, it was a timely chat. I've been angry all week, unable to forgive myself and another. What tips might you have for me? This is more about person to person. Well, I don't know you, Angela, but I'll tell you some things that I'm doing. I have a sign up that sits on my desk that says, pause. I am working with mindfulness so that I can feel what Lama Rod said about the rising of the energy within me. I'm trying to pay attention to that. And since I was raised with anger being okay, I'm doing some childhood work. But again, I don't know. First, let me say, forgive yourself. You are perfectly normal. We all lose it sometimes. What you want to do is ask the person, if you feel safe with them, if they would give you a hint, maybe raise their hand when you raise your voice. And when you apologize to them, say to them that you're working on it. And sometimes it's helpful if someone reminds you that your voice is raised. I hope that helps. I don't think you need to beat yourself up. That is for sure. Let me, Lotus to you too, Angela. Let me just go through the rest of the announcements. The full book discussion, which will be on Zoom, starts on Thursday. Last week there was an opening. It's probably been filled. The book is Deep Hope, but go to the website and contact Joy. Better to contact her and find out what's happening. The second fall book discussion on Zoom will be October 7th, a Wednesday, and it's Sharon Salzberg's new book, Real Change, again, led by Joy. And you are encouraged to, again, go to the website. This is a new program that is beginning that Denise just shared with me, and it's a Sangha Buddy program. Cooped up during COVID, want to enhance your practice? Consider a Sangha Buddy. They will be meeting by phone or virtual Zoom to discuss your practice And the commitment that you would make would be from October 1st to December 31st. Contact Denise if you're interested in this program. The Fall Insight Meditation Basic Series via Zoom will be led by Ward Simmons. This is the perfect time for you to increase your knowledge about the basics. It will go from 4 consecutive Tuesdays, October 6th, 13th, 20th, and 27th. The Fall Beyond the Basics series with Debbie George via Zoom will be on Living the Four Noble Truths. And that will start on October 20th. It will go every Thursday except Election Day. And that is from 7 to 9. October 7th, Thea Powers, Dharma leader in training, will also be leading, and it's helpful for you to support her and join us. Details about the programs I've just mentioned are all on the website. Clean Up Earth Day volunteer event, October 10th, is from 9 to noon at Freedom Park and Greenway. It's outdoors, socially distanced, and good, clean fun. Check out our website, www.imccharlotte.org, for upcoming events and detailed information on offerings. Weekly instruction starts at 7 before Wednesday evenings, meditation at 7:30. Are there any non-IMCC related announcements? Elaine says that Joy does have a wait list. I would still check with her just in case someone drops out, especially before next week or October. Maddie says, thank you very much for this, talking about this subject. I've been carrying a lot of righteous anger and some selfish anger as well for a number of months now, often unconsciously. Even just hearing anger talked about has helped me be aware that I am angry, something I wasn't taught to embrace. And now I can start to heal and forgive and let it go, so I can affect change more peacefully. Thank you for sharing, Dan and Alexis. And thank you, Maddie, for sharing with us. Denise wants everyone to know that the details are on the website on imccharlotte.org. And you can find the contact information for Maria Shute regarding the Sangha Buddy Program, pairs meeting to share their Dharma journey. Thank you all for your comments. One more announcement. Ongoing Dana is again on our website, and you can just go to the website and Maria, do you want to say something? But you can make a contribution on the website. I am unmuting Maria so that she can share her message. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexis. Yeah, Denise chatted that I am the contact for that Sangamati program. I would ask if you, when you email me, if you would put IMCC Sangamati in the subject line. So if your email ends up in my, junk folder, that I know that it's somebody from the Sangha, and I will respond. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Again, the Dana can be made through online donations by going to our website. Thank you all for your attention. And now I'm going to share with you metta. So if you will, take a meditative, relaxed but dignified position. And let me share with you metta. You can say it to yourself as I read each statement. May I be free of enmity, unwholesomeness, and judgment of others. May I be free of troubles of body and mind. May I be free of hurtfulness and unkind words and deeds. May my mind be as spacious as the sky. May I be able to protect my happiness and add to the happiness of others. Before I close, I just want to say that I took some words from Mary Aubrey and molded the metta to fit my needs. So I thank her as well. May you all have a wonderful, wonderful week. Thank you.